So today I'm gonna start differently. I wanna say this prayer that is one of my favorites, so then you can start the lecture. So it's the prayer of Caritas. So, God, our Father, who is all power and goodness, give strength to those who go through tribulations. Give light to those who seek the truth, and fill the human heart with compassion and charity. God, give the guiding star to the traveler, consolation to the afflicted, and rest to the sick. Father, give repentance to the guilty, give truth to the spirit, guidance to the child, a father to the orphan. Lord, may your goodness extend over everything that you have created. Mercy, Lord, to those who do not know you, and hope to those who suffer. May your goodness allow to consoling spirits to spread peace, hope, and faith everywhere. O God, a ray, a spark of your love can illuminate the earth. Let us drink from the fountains of this abundant and infinite goodness. All tears will be dried and all pain will be lessened. A single heart, a single thought will rise to you as a cry of gratitude and love. Like Moses on the mountain, we'll wait for you with open arms. All goodness, all beauty, all perfection. We'll wish you in some way to deserve your mercy. God, give us the strength, help our progress so we may rise up to you. Give us pure charity and humbleness. Give us faith and reason. Give us the simplicity, Father, that will make our souls the mirror that will reflect your divine image. Amen. I don't know, I love this prayer. It's one of my favorites. Every time it gives me goosebumps. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, this one. Everybody can see it already or no?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, let me put, yeah, now you guys can see it? True?
Yes.
Okay. So we are starting today about chapter 22. Samantha, I was thinking we're almost done. We're almost with the girls, like finishing the gospel, huh? But I was thinking, I don't want to do the Spirit's book, guys. I don't want to do it. It's too much. All right. So the chapter 22, we say about do not separate what God has joined. So it's about the this word is hard, the indissolubility of marriage. So here they're gonna talk about marriage and divorce. So the first part is like when the marriage, like when the marriage meant to be, and when it's time to like for you to realize that like you are allowed to divorce, right? Because we have to remember that when the Bible was written, and even in Jesus' time, like before was Moses' teachings, right? So divorce was something that like it was allowed for women, but if you get divorced from your woman because I don't know, I was like seeing some ridiculous example, but at that time it's how it worked it. Like because the woman didn't work very good and the guy didn't want her anymore, he would divorce her. Like if she wasn't like a very good like housewife, that was considered a reason to be divorced, right? And because of that, divorce for women always was like bad. It was bad for people's eyes if the woman was divorced, but never for the guy, right? And this is sometimes still are it depending of the religion you are, right? But like with the time, things got different, things evolved. So it's what we're gonna talk a little bit here. So the Pharisees asked Jesus about the marriage thing and about divorce. Is it permitted for a man to divorce his wife for whatever reason? So Jesus answered, a man shall leave his father and mother and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh only. Hence, they shall no longer be two, but one flesh only. Therefore, let no man separate what God has joined. So basically, what he says here, um, he uh, he tried to put like make the Moses teachings more like sweet. Remember, we always trying to learn that like Moses has the first laws, but then he came and showed us the law of love, right? So what he says here, the marriage cannot be treated as like an institution, as like a business thing. That's what Jesus always wanted. He always tried to teach everyone that marriage is something that two literally become one. So it's when two people love each other, they get married not because they're interested on money, on material things. They have to be married to be family, to be there for each other, to uh, to care for each other. It's not only because the society thinks that the woman cannot be single and she has to get married, or the guy has to be married to someone that is gonna do everything at the house for him. It's like almost like a slave. Like on Jesus' time was normal, you know? So that's what Jesus trying to teach us, that like the marriage thing is not material, but is where we start practice the law of love, when you united with someone that you basically don't know much. Because we all know that like we start knowing someone when you like really get married or living with that person, then we start get to know that person. So here he says human laws regarding to the union of beings. It's about civil laws. So the marriage, like in our days, like they follow so civil laws, which can be variable. It can be it can change state by state. It can change country by country, and mostly important, it can change what religion that civilization follows, or even just the state, the country, or something like that. And then, like I said, our requirement of the civilizations. Some people just accept you're married if you go and like sign papers. But the Jesus idea is not like just because they sign papers they are married. They What is most important here is like if you are committed to your partner, if you can like make sure that your partner knows that you can be there for him and vice versa. That's the marriage, that's the meaning of marriage for Jesus. It's not about civil laws. But some countries we have to adapt it, and you have to just follow because of the civilization. You have just to follow because of the laws and because of things that are like that the country or the state are ruled for. And also because regulates like the family's interest. We know about all this, like how you say when you herons from someone, when you have herons from like family and stuff.
Yeah, inherence.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of this bureaucracy, sometimes you have like to get married on papers just because of that and everything else. Like how many couples we know that like one of them say like, I'm just getting married because like he wanted, because for me, I would just live with the person and I consider myself married. That's it. Marriage is there because once you're there for the person and vice versa, both care for each other, the love is there. That's the marriage. But for some like regulations and civil laws and stuff, we have to follow some things. But at the Jesus time was different. You have to like follow everything by the book, Otherwise, it would be like that woman that's gonna be this people not gonna respect and everything. All this bureaucracy, and like we always mention in our lectures, that time was like a lot of ignorance, and because ignorance, you end up like, judging much more. You like just judge people, even unknowing people, just because the person is not married because is old or is divorced. Because sometimes even at that time, if the man would cheat on the wife, it was wife's fault. How absurd is that? Like, that's why when Jesus came, he wanted to show people, to show everyone, his followers and everybody, that like it doesn't work like that. And at the same time, it's not that he's defending the divorce. He's just saying that but a couple is unhappy, both parts are unhappy, like both doesn't care for each other anymore, like there's no sense to be together. That story, it probably ended, and there's nothing wrong about it. We have to know, we have to see when, like, if he thinks that I do is just for myself, and if he thinks that my husband does is just for himself. There's no mutual care. There's no mutual like love. They just love themselves. They don't love each other anymore. And when you start realizing that, if you're in a relationship like that, why not you think about like separate. There's nothing wrong about it. That's what Jesus wanted to say. It's not, if the guy divorced the woman, it's not because of like just the woman's fault. Something was wrong. There was not like love anymore. And sometimes no, a lot of people they just keep together because they're gonna think the society gonna say something. And still nowadays is like that. Society is gonna still do something because of the kids. And in the end, what you see, that like you don't have any more respect for your partner, and neither for yourself. And when this happens, there's no more marriage, because there's no care or love for each other. And that's when you start auto destroy yourself, not only you but the other person in your relationship too. Like I mentioned before, most of the time the marriage thing, and you have to respect the bureaucracy because of the laws of the state or country or religious and culture you are, and also according to time, place, intellectual progress of that people. What the divine law says about marriage. The divine law, like I was mentioning so far, that what Jesus came here to show us is the nature's law. Is invariable, like it doesn't matter if you're married or not, in paper or not. Once like the union of this couple brings you love and care for each other, that's all that matter for Jesus. And then they are the same at any time, at any place in the world. So it doesn't matter if you are with a person here in Vegas, and you go to Brazil with that person too, if you didn't get married in the church, or if you didn't get married the civil, like it doesn't matter. The only thing it matters that like you're there and care for each other. And there is nothing immutable except what has come from God. Everything that is the work of humans is subject to change. And reminding that all the nature things change. For example, on the olds, they criticize women that were divorced, right? Nowadays, it's so normal that like you don't have to feel shame for it, And like I want to like emphasize again that it's not that the gospel is defending the divorce. What it's the opposite actually, because it's nothing helps if you are married with a person just for interest. You know, this is not a marriage, right? We have to be there for each other, have to care for each other. And that's what the most important thing that is trying to say here. And the divine material law is the union of the sexes. Also, the love. That's the thing that most matter on a divine law, is the love that counts for each other. Now, the divine material law, it is the union of the sexes as well, and carry out the replacement of people who die. This part here is a little bit weird, but what matters here, what he's trying to say here, that it's basically, it's like a cycle, right? Like when you get married, you start a new cycle. It's not that like you're trying to forget someone that just passed, you know? It's like the cycle of life. You live like your parents' life, you go married, and then you start your own family. It's like you had your family, like your parents had your family while you're living with them. But now you got married, you have your own family. And that's called the cycle. That's why it says that's a replacement of people who die. Not actually like you're trying to forget someone that died. And must be governed by the law of love. So it doesn't matter what kind of culture you are, where you live, if you're gonna get married someone, the law of love, that's the most important thing that counts. Of course, we all know because of religion, most of the time, a lot of the time, some countries that are not evolved, they still have the arrangement marriage, which, like, you know, some of the times they're successful, but some of the times they're not. But unfortunately, like, depending where you are, you have to follow. But also, these people are raised like that, so for them it's kind of normal, you know. But for those that are not, like, we don't have to introduce that to our lives if it's something that we are not used to it. And the affirmation that Jesus said, do not separate what God has joined. Only spiritual ties and of mutual affection are indissoluble. So unions based on the material interest are transitory and soon disappear. How many cases we heard, at least, that just people get married for, like, for example, money? We know that a union is probably not gonna last long because the main thing was the interest, right? So that's the material interest of the marriage. And what about those who marry only for material interest? They will have to learn to love each other through living together, through renunciation and selflessness. Selflessness, which is hard. A lot of people just don't do that, and they suffer in a marriage, you know, just because of the material interest. And the union of the sexes that is not governed by the law of love, it wasn't joined by God, because God says, like here the phrase, do not separate what God has joined. But God join, like, make people join each other for love. He doesn't make people join each other for interest. So unhappy unions that eventually become criminals, which would be avoided if the law of love was not ignored. And the union of sexes, God wishes for the union of the body plus union of the soul, because the body is basically where you can create a new family, and the soul, like, again, is when, like, you feel that, like, you're attracted for that person and vice versa, both care for each other, and goes on. Now, mutual affection is extended to the children, like it's when you start constitute a family. And being two instead of one, to love them, care for them, and enable them to progress. Marriage is in the question 695 on the Spirit's book. It is one of the first acts of progress in human society, as establishes fraternal solidarity. Remember, like I think Andre mentioned that on his lecture, but if I'm not wrong, he mentioned the one that he gave to us. But also, I watched one of his lectures saying that like when you get married or like when you have someone is the most alive proof of obsession. Do you guys remember that? Because like when we are with someone that is totally different from, not totally different, but like has like it was raised differently than you, there's different uh, takes, you know, like you learn with the person with the that you just got married. It's not only because like you have all these differences, but like we sometimes are attracted for people that are a little bit different than us, and it's with the difference that we learn. But the most important thing, we have to have what? Patience. You have to donate ourselves. We have to have the charity with each other, because once you don't have this the small patience, once you don't have this love that you want to give, this charity of like giving love, you're not going to learn anything. And it doesn't matter if you get divorced, probably it's going to happen again and again, because first we have to learn that love is not selfish. Love is giving first, then receiving. That's the most important thing. So if you don't accept that, it's going to be very hard for someone to be with other person, because if you just want to receive and never want to give, this is not love. This is most of the time like most of the time, no, it's like being selfish with the other person all the time, because just you want to be satisfied, right? So and it's very hard for me. Like when I was studying this, I was thinking, but man, I'm just not even married for 3 years. I don't really have experience, you know, what is being married, you know, like being going through a lot of things, you know, that couples out there being, and you know, they're still together, they're still there for each other, you know. But for like some small experiences here and there from my parents and everything, one thing I learned that like you, like once you give up for nothing, it doesn't, so it means that you actually not really love the person. You probably love that like the beginning and everything, but once like you go through difficult times, it's when you realize that like if that person is there for you and vice versa. And it's like most of the times, like in every situation in our life, that we know that and the difficult times is when both of us are tested, and like if there's love there for both parts, it means that that thing can go through it. And like I think that's one of the reasons nowadays a lot of couples uh, don't go through it, because for any fights, any stupid fights, people just like, you know what, I'm tired of it, I'm gonna divorce. You know, like I'm not too much experienced, but for the like little I see, for the small I've seen it, most of the times it's because like small differences, it's like reason for people to blow out and just want to leave that union, that commitment. And it's very hard to talk about marriage. Like we do have two people here that are married like for a longer time, right? Samantha and Luisa. But yeah, for me it was a little bit like because I put myself as a married person and trying to like to see, yeah, me and my husband, we went through some like, you know, difficult times, but I don't think it was like for people out there, you know, like they're married for years, they can tell better like all the experiences they have. And it's not because of a small fight it means that you want to divorce, you know. So like people needs to learn to have patience, to have, you know, like charity with the other person, you know, like you want to, because sometimes in a relationship, there will be times that you're gonna give more than receive, but also there will be times that you're gonna receive more than give. Is a change, you know, is you have to change that all the time. And once you have this flux, you know, it's when like your marriage gets more solid, and like you can, you know, keep going stronger than ever. You know, it's how I feel it. It's how I could take as a lesson. And I can tell that like now on COVID, where we're all, you know, locked up all together, it's something that like is very challenging, you know, because we are, you know, seeing each other all the time, you know, we are not making a lot of stuff. So it's like, if you learn now, like that's a good situation for us to get out of this situation is stronger than ever. Yeah, so about the marriage, we finish here. I'm gonna do the prayer, so then we can continue. So, okay, my friends, my spiritual friends, my friends that are here with me listening us, let's calm our hearts. Let's take a deep, deep breath. Put our thoughts on good vibration. Sending all the help is needed right now, not only for our country that we're living, but for the whole world. Sending the vibration that people are in need, people that are suffering, people that are lonely at this time, those people that are in hospitals, people that are on the streets, illness people, for all those in need physically and mentally. That the help that the spiritual world can send us is huge. So let's open our hearts and receive it with the most love we can. Putting our love in practice with our prayers for everyone, and let our Jesus, our brother Jesus, evolve us with a huge hug, with a huge blessing, so then we can go through this week with hope in our hearts, with more love, with more inspiration, and with positive thoughts. Because once we work all that on us, we can go through all this crisis together. Let's ask our spiritual friends to bless our waters and put the remedy necessary that we need, the remedy that can heal everything that is going on with us on the spiritual body and on the physical body. Thank you for the presence of all of you here, spiritual friends and incarnated friends, and so be it.